I'm Tom, I'm invested in the Cosmere, and this is my boy. This is a Chull, and a very sadly unpainted one. I got this Chull along with the rest of my Cosmere RPG Kickstarter stuff, and I'm going to paint him. I've never painted a miniature before. I've bought a whole bunch of stuff. And what I'm going to do today is kind of give you a time lapse of me diving into the wide, wild world of painting for the first time. Oh, I just noticed his little mandible there in the front is broken off. That's sad. I've had this sort of Cosmere shelf going, Cosmere gaming shelf going for a bit, and these keep falling off as the room shakes and everything like that. And I must have lost a little mandible off my boy. But we're going to paint my boy. We're going to try to shoot for something very similar to what's seen for the Chull in Bridge 9. And so kind of this like brownish, sort of natural looking shell top, some red, orange for the many legs and for the mandibles, some cute black eyes, some brown sort of dirt colored for the base. Again, I've never painted before, so I don't quite know what I'm getting into, but I've bought a few things. I think a lot of people who are getting into the Cosmere RPG may have never done this before, and I'm in the same boat, of course. And so I've bought a few things. Maybe if you're on the fence about what to get, you'll see after I'm recording all of this after I've bought everything, but before I've actually done the painting. I'm going to do the painting today. We'll see if this is even a one-day thing. Who knows? The first thing I bought after watching many YouTube videos on painting techniques is primer. I don't know if this is necessary for this type of model, but pretty much everything I've seen, everybody is using some kind of primer. I went with a primer by the company Army Painter. All of my paints are from Army Painter. And that'll give it a nice base coat. I'm going to use a technique on top of that called dry brushing. Again, like, Cosmere miniature, maybe some other like hardcore painters are probably going to cringe at my attempts here to sort of will my way into miniature painting. But I'm going to do some dry brushing for the highlights, nice black base, to all the color on top of that. I'll show you what kind of colors I got and the like. I also got on Amazon a nice set of paint brushes. This was like $17 worth, $18 worth of paint brushes, and there's sort of a variety of different tips available. Everything from kind of like a chisel edge to these larger brushes to things for super fine detail, which, for my boy, he's rather big. I don't know if that's going to make this whole process. Oh, he's come out of his little thing. I don't know if that's going to make this whole process easier or harder. My gut says that I'll have a lot more room to do some interesting shading and maybe, blend colors a little bit on the top. But we'll see. I have no idea exactly what I'm getting into here. So maybe by the end, I would have appreciated going for something a little bit more simpler, a little bit smaller. But we'll see. Time will tell. I got 2 sets of paints. I don't think this is necessary, by the way. I have a specific vision for what I want this to look like. So I went with two basic sets of paint. This is sort of an acrylic based sort of standard colors. This is what I'll use to do some of the dry brushing and then some of the base tones. And then the other thing I got here is a speed paint. Again, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but from what I've gathered, this kind of gives you an opacity to the coloring that shows up on the miniature that will pick up the tones from the primer that you use and from the dry brushing on the highlights that you see. And these are more sort of pure color. So we'll see what this comes out looking like at the end. I think for this I'll be using more of the dry or the speed painting sets as opposed to the full acrylics. But I went to a local store up by me, which I highly recommend. To try to avoid Amazon as much as you can, because there's a lot of really good stores that need your business. I also picked up what I thought was going to be the best Colin blue out of everything that I saw. The starter set that I got comes with something called ultramarine blue, which I believe is a Warhammer sort of color. Regal blue, I felt just kind of like looking at the two colors side by side. I don't know how much with my lighting in here and everything like that you'll be able to see it, but I felt like this was a better, stronger Colin blue. So we're going to cut to a series of videos of me doing the different stages of this. Again, I have no idea how long this is going to take. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if I do a good job painting my boy. Yeah, if this is your thing, subscribe to Invested in the Cosmere. Check me out at investedinthecosmere.com. And I will see you on the other side, hopefully with a painted boy. Okay, so bad microphone here, but quick hot take on priming. That went pretty well, I think. I couldn't tell if I was putting on too much or not enough. It does look quite shiny. I feel like I maybe went a little too heavy in some places, or maybe heavier than I needed to. I'm going to see how long this takes to dry, but one of the harder parts was there's a lot of like interior bits to this guy. That were sort of like I had to go a little harder in some places that I wanted to. But, as a base coat, we'll see how this goes. Yeah, maybe I made like a huge mistake and somebody will chastise me for it. I did buy 2 sets of all the miniatures, knowing that this is going to be a learning process. So maybe I made a huge mistake that we'll learn about later, or maybe not. Maybe this was great. Time will tell. I'm Tom, I'm invested in the Cosmere, and today we are going to do some dry brushing on my boy. My boy is a Chull from the Cosmere RPG. This is probably a smash cut to right after yesterday where I primed him. I have never painted a miniature before, so I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going off of YouTube tutorials, and that's just about it. And so, yeah, we're just going to try to get right into it. My setup here is all ready to go. One of the tutorials that I watched said that for proper dry brushing technique, instead of getting your brush wiped off on like a cloth or something, to use some like textured stuff. So I have some like modular dungeon pieces that I 3D printed that I never quite used. And so I'm just going to use these to kind of get rid of some of the excess moisture and see how it goes. I've never done this before. This will probably be sped up for most of it, but really what I want to try to accomplish today is just getting the dry brushing done and then letting that sort of dry and seeing how that looks. It feels like it's good enough. Well, no time like the present. Let's just dive right in. Oh, my boy! All right, so this has happened like 6 times while I have been working on this. I don't know if that's just like if I'm doing this wrong or something like that. Hopefully somebody can help me figure out how to make that not happen. Oof, poor boy. All right. There we go. That is it. I feel as though that I maybe went a little too hard in some areas. Like the sort of the videos that I was seeing online definitely had like a lot less of the white kind of getting across into the model. And so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I don't hate the look of it. Like I really do want, a lot of color to pop on some of these, leg joints and stuff. And the shell, I definitely want to have show up pretty vividly with the color, with some varying levels of contrast. When you think about a Chull, they're outdoors probably their entire lives. They're certainly made to withstand a storm. And so this would be weathered pretty significantly. It would also like roast in the sun. So there'd be a lot of sun coloration to that shell. So I don't hate the fact that it's so like highlighted in certain places. And definitely I want that color to pop on the carapace. So, that also kind of feels like it's pretty good. I don't know if I'm supposed to go right into painting after doing some work here. I'm going to let it sit for like an hour and then I'm going to come back to it. So we'll see how my boy does, and we'll catch you on the next one, I guess. All right, we're back at it again with my boy. It's been about 20 minutes and I wanted to get a good amount of time for him to dry, make sure that the paint doesn't just all, melt away or whatever. I don't know, actually. I don't know what would happen if I had gone straight into it. So there's a couple of things that I'm looking to accomplish with the next sort of part here. I'm using Army Painter Speed paint for this next part, and I don't think this is all of the colors that I have. Is this the right one? What is they came with sort of these 2 palettes. I guess, yeah, this was supposed to be that, but this doesn't have pallid bone on it, which I'm going for a couple of different colors here. I want to kind of get like a natural sort of bone-like sort of top coat. Go with something that's like a little sort of natural looking, but also, worn by the sun, potentially worn, out there in the world. I don't really know where I'm going with that. We're just gonna give it a try. We're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna use for the skin tone. I'm gonna try to mix a combination of Zealot Yellow and Slaughter Red. See how that goes. And then I'm gonna try to do sort of a triple mixture here. This could be a disaster, but triple mixture, or maybe just like layering the colors of pallid bone, satchel brown, and peachy flesh for the carapace part. We're going to do the flesh later, so I'm going to set these aside. And we're just going to start with, I don't know why I pulled out blue. It goes back on the rack. We're going to start with these. This part I am like completely at sea over. I don't know at all what I'm doing for this segment. I'm going to use kind of a broader brush. That could be a mistake, but I want to get some like nice kind of tones in there, and sort of broader brush strokes for this. Oh, my boy. How will you stand up to paint? How will I do? Will I do you justice? I hope so. I'm using the lid that this came with as a as sort of a guidepost here. So I'm just gonna do like a little. It's almost too light. I feel like I don't have anything at all on there. I don't really know with speed paints what's the good viscosity to go with. I mean, we're just going to grip it and rip it here. Like, this could be a disaster. This could be a mistake. This is my first mini. I'm certainly going to make some of them. So let's just start, I guess. Let's make some mistakes. Wow, this is a lot more nerve-wracking than I thought it would be. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the color isn't that intense, and I'm wondering if it's because I didn't go hard enough with my speed painting, or if that's just kind of what you get with this type of painting, and I maybe should have gone, if I wanted it to be a little bit of a brighter sort of sort of carapace, that I should have gone with like a brighter base coat layer. But I'm going to keep layering onto this and see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see. We're going to leave our boy right there for now, and we're going to see how long this layer takes to dry, and then we're going to come back to it. So yeah, there's definitely some areas that are like pooling up a little bit brighter than others. And I think I don't know if that's because it's the model or if it's because the way I've applied the paint. This is the type of thing I presume will come with experience. But yeah, I think that's okay for now. That's kind of like a light base layer to start. We'll see. I'm feeling less certain about the brown, unless I mix it in with some of the white to kind of lighten it up to more of a tan. But maybe that's what the peach will do. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. We are back, and as you can see, my boy has begun to take on a little bit of that brown. I don't mind it that much. It doesn't look too bad to me. I do wonder, though, if it's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't know if this is like the absolute worst thing I could do, but I'm going to try to bring in some of the white that I used to do the initial like coating of it, and just see if I can't maybe get like a little bit of a lighter sort of contrast going on here. Yeah. Yeah, that looks like it feels a little better. I don't really know. I might be like ruining all that speed painting work that I did, or what is it, the dry brushing that I did by mixing these things in. But we'll see what happens. This is definitely an interesting sort of hue here. I don't know if this is exactly what I wanted to go for. So this is why painting miniatures is hard. Not hard, not unapproachable. Just there's a technique to it. There's a skill here that you really need to like hone. And I don't think I'm doing a particularly good job right now. But we'll see what happens when this all dries and everything comes out. We'll see how my boy looks. There's also the reality that this is like paint it for 2 seconds and then come back, and then come back and layer it again, and just keep going with that until you get something that you like. I mean, already, like I said, I kind of didn't like it at first, but where I'm going up and I'm like touching up these highlights and stuff and just sort of making sure I've got like a decent coverage, it's actually starting to look pretty good. I think what I want to do is bring in some contrasting color, maybe some like maybe bring in that peach and kind of work that a little bit. But I really like the way that this is starting to look. I'm kind of trying to clean up some of the thicker areas and going in one direction here. But this looks cool. Yeah, I like that. My boy, you're starting to look like a real boy. A real boy. I'm going to kind of try to get into some of these little nooks and crannies here. Those are going to be really dark areas for him. Let's let that dry. This actually looks like it's drying very fast. Yeah. All right. That looks pretty good. All right, so that dried a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I'm going to use a little bit of this peachy flesh and see what that does when I come in with some of those more, what I'm hoping for is like kind of a lighter hue to everything. Or at least give it a little more personality. I'm actually really liking the way that that's going. I'm probably using the wrong technique here. Maybe somebody who is a little bit more veteran to mini painting will help correct my ways. Maybe Cosmere and Miniature will come in and tell me all the things that I did wrong with my boy here. But there's a certain personality to those early miniatures that you start painting, I would assume. It's not exactly the best, most skillful technique miniature painted in the world, but it's mine. And I think I'm going a little too heavy-handed here. See, I'm getting sloppy, I'm getting lazy. I'm going to try to use this as my palette here and really pick up everything that I just laid down there. This one's going to take a long time, I think, to settle in. I think there's, that charm, that personality to your first paint. This is going to have a lot of charm a lot of personality. And why wouldn't he? He's my boy. My little Chull boy. I mean, it's looking like a rock. I don't hate it. I think the one thing I'm like, you can really still see the black underneath all of that. And I think what I need to do is just keep layering. Just keep layering and keep putting more and more paint over it in these thin layers to try to warm it up. And I think I'm going to kind of alternate between that lighter stuff that I was doing, the mix of the bone with the white. I think I'm going to keep like layering those things together to try to get that sort of tone that I'm looking for. But what I'm liking right now is that this is feeling intentional. It's feeling like I'm doing a thing. I have a vision of a thing, and then that thing is happening, and I'm fairly happy with that. So we're gonna let this dry. I can already see in certain areas like it's already kind of starting to set in dry, and so some of the areas are definitely a little more wet than others. I'm gonna let this guy dry for maybe like another 5 to 10 minutes. Back at it again with my boy. My boy. The color is really coming together. The more it dries, the more it's like really, really popping for me. I love it. And so I am going to, I'm going to just keep the momentum going. I'm going to try a new little mix here of some of the pallet bone. And I'm going to do like a dab. We're going risky here. I'm going to do a dab of red. Because what I kind of want to do is I want some of the tones and the highlights that come in, that I'm going to bring into the carapace. I want to bring that into the shell. Oh, this is not the right color. This was like, that was like pure red. It's like, it almost looks like blood. That was too heavy-handed. Little experimentation. Back off a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. So how are we going to do this? Maybe go a little brown, a little palette brown. Palette bone. I keep saying palette brown. It's palette bone. Let's try with some of the peach. That could be, maybe that's the contrast we need to do. God, when I go to do the orange, we are going to try to stay away from the intensity of that yellow, or of that red rather, because that was quite an intense color. All right. Oh yeah, this is much better. This has that warmth I was looking for. And it's really picking up on top of everything else that I have going on. This is looking great. Again, like I may have made some like really classic first time miniature mistakes in this. And I'm okay with that. This is a learning process. But so far I'm loving it. There's definitely some areas where like I think what I had worked on earlier has kind of like really worn away. Actually, it's quite a bit. Some of the edges are really like pulling off almost. Maybe it's because I'm going too fast. I'm working too fast. Oops, I accidentally just dipped into the red. So I'm pretty satisfied with that as like a coat. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to switch And I'm going to move over to some of the Carapace legging. And I am real nervous about this because I don't quite feel like I know what I'm getting into with this red now that I've seen it in person. Just how quickly it mixed in. I'm going to go with a little bit of a finer brush tip for this one. And we'll see how that goes. Oh man. Wow, it is just, it's not even, the red is just so dominant. I don't know how I'm going to get to the orange that I want. Maybe like I just poured some yellow in there. Okay, it's kind of getting there. Man, that is not giving up. Try some of this peach too, because that kind of has some of that yellow. And it is, I think, going to, one, darken it up, and two, oh yeah, kind of. Got way too much on my brush. See, it's, oops. Step aside, boy. It's kind of the direction I want to go. It looks like, it really looks like I just hit like a mosquito or something on my finger, on my arm there. I'm gonna go hard again on the yellow. Man, maybe yellow is like what I actually want this to be. I think we're looking really good here. Okay. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. This is unexpectedly, I didn't know if I was going to enjoy like how meticulous this whole process is, and being somebody with a family and with like kids and stuff like that, or kid I should say. I don't know that I'll always have time to like do something like this, but it still is quite enjoyable. Yeah, this is going to take many, many coats, I think, to kind of hit the luminosity, the sort of brightness and vividness of color that I want to see. Again, like this may not be the right style of paint for what my vision is. I may want to like go over this with like real, just like acrylic paint, because especially like the black primer is just not having it color wise. But again, it's like this is only my first coat, so maybe we just trust the process at the same time. Yeah, see if I could get it more there, get it to stay there, but we'll see. I have way too much on my brush. It's another thing. It's definitely a technique, knowing exactly how to hit the right balance. You can notice some areas where I really like just didn't get the dry brushing going. I feel like if I could go back, I would. All right, that's a good first coat, I think. We're gonna let this dry. I mean, It's coming out really good in camera. It looks a little bit better than maybe it does in real life on camera, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, we're just gonna let that sit and dry for a little bit. Enjoy, my boy. Take a little break. Take a breather. You deserve it. All right, we're back at it again. We've had a little time to dry. The color's coming in a little bit. You know, I'm thinking that sort of my mistake has been that I needed to have more of like a base layer on this, on the parts that I really wanted this color to take on. So what I'm having to do, or what's happening now as a result, is that I'm just sort of like base coating over more speed paint, which is not necessarily the, you know, what I wanted to do, I guess. That's just a guess. That's what I'm, you know, after I in between sort of takes here, I'm going and I'm watching like shorts and reels and stuff over on a couple of different channels over little technique and trying to you know, figure out what I could be doing more efficiently here. I'm definitely using too much of this, but I'm kind of liking how this is looking. And that's kind of what I think that's what I'm missing here, or what I should be doing here is kind of focusing in a little bit more on establishing a base layer and then building on top of that. However, I should say what is happening as a result of the way that I have gone about this is that this is taking on a very dark sort of coloring. And I actually don't, for this model, I don't mind that much. I actually I really like the way that this is looking. I think it comes off as a much more sort of deep, rich color. And, you know, I don't mind that at all. I think it's going to take a bit to settle into the precise color I want, but that's okay. I don't mind. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to try to get inside and underneath all these little details here. And one thing that I'm going to sort of allow to happen as I'm doing this is I'm going to touch the bottom of the shell up with some of that orange. I want this to kind of be like an undertone to everything. I don't, you know, I want there to be some level of synergy between the carapace and the shell, but I want them to be distinct. And so I'm just going to kind of let that tone creep up a little bit. I definitely needed to do more work on the interior pieces here. I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, but you practically, like, the interior at this point is black, and I'm hoping that this little bit of color I'm able to drench in gets picked up through repeated layering of these colors. But as of right now, you know, you almost can't really tell at all that it's not just black, which is okay. I mean, it's going to be really dark anyway. So like I don't mind that as much. But it's definitely not like we're not picking up any of that color. That color is really tough to kind of get through. I'm just going to kind of like lightly I've sort of gone over this in a layer. I'm just going to kind of lightly give the base of this just a little bit of like what I almost want is like a gradient coming up to the top. Maybe a little too heavy-handed, but that's okay. Oh, this is actually looking really sick. Oh, that was too much. That was too much. But you know what? I'm just going to I'll just pull from that, kind of brush it away while also sort of reestablishing here. Yeah, I feel like with just a couple more layers of this on the carapace here, I think we're going to be in great shape. And I do want to go over the top with one more, maybe one or two more layers. So I'm going to let that sit. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come at this from the top. Oops, I need to, paints here have been drying as I've been going here. A little bit of that pallid bone. A little bit of peachy flesh. And then kind of give this a good mix. And then I'm just going to do some stuff on the top. Yes. Oh, this is looking really good. See? You guys just got to trust the process. Again, like I know I've done probably made some really rookie mistakes, some beginner mistakes, things I could have done better and the like. That's okay. This is my boy. There's not going to be another boy like it. And that means, you know, he's got some character. He's got some flaws. He's not perfect. He's a Chull. What do you expect? Oh, that looks so great. Yeah, so we'll just keep working on layering in some of that red. It's drying pretty quickly, so I'm just gonna kind of work this in a little bit more. Really bring it all the way down to the bottom. Then maybe even start coming back in with the red, because part of it is drying already. Some of it's still a little damp. But man, this is looking good. I'm feeling really good about this. This is my first mini? Sure. Pretty good. I feel good about it, at least. Maybe some people would do something different, but that's just okay. Oh, that just looks fantastic. I'm loving the way that's looking. Take another little break to kind of let things dry. I'm just going to keep layering. Like, I want a really rich color on that orange. So I'm just going to I'm going to go over that like maybe a few more times. But in the meantime, I really want to plan what I'm doing with the ground. And I think what I'm going to do is layer in like a very light version of the brown, like the acrylic brown. And I'm going to mix a little bit of the brown and a little bit of the white and really go to town on that ground, and then layer in some like maybe little pops of green. But we'll see how that goes. We're gonna take a little boy break here and let this really take time to sort of set in. Oh boy, do I like the way that looks. Yeah, that's great. Boy break. All right, so checking in. I'm feeling pretty good. There's more I want out of the color. We're gonna keep doing the arms and the legs and stuff. Top, I don't know. It's looking pretty good. I feel like I can do better. What I am gonna do though is I'm gonna work on the base because I'm really nervous about the base, and I figure if you're nervous about it, get in there, make some mistakes. We'll see where we go. Ooh, I was initially thinking the brown here, this leather brown, was gonna need some like dampening or some lightening. I was worried it was gonna be like a really deep brown. I actually think it's the perfect brown for what I'm looking for. So yeah, we are just gonna do a really light layer of this all the way around, and then we're gonna do some of the satchel brown speed paint over it. Regretting touching the base, the side of the base. Can I just, right? Maybe not. I'll have to figure out what to do about that later. think on the next Chull that I do, because I have two, I bought 2 sets of the miniatures because I knew I'd be painting them and it was going to be my first time. I definitely think I'll start with a base coat of orange on the mandibles and then do some of the speed painting on top of it to kind of give it an effect. Well, I guess I'll see what happens after I finish this. For right now, I'm just going to set that down and we're going to let that dry for a bit. I'm going to do the speed paint. I'm going to put this satchel brown in there to kind of darken it up in certain spots, give it some shadow, give it some depth, and we'll go from there. So boy check. This is still wet. I don't know what I'm doing. Boy check, but there you go. We're getting there. All right, we are back with our boy. What I'm going to do a couple more passes. I'm really happy with where the shell is at. I want to work on the carapace and I want to work on the base. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of the satchel brown speed paint into the base area. And just try to get that like a little bit of like texture to it as much as I possibly can. Let's see what this does. Ooh, that's too much. It's very dark. That might be too dark. I just need to spread it around, I think. This might be like a one and done layer kind of thing. Because I like the texture it's giving overall, but I feel like it's a little too much. Like that's going to look okay. But it is going on very heavy. It could just be the amount of paint I have on my brush, to be honest. I don't want to try to rush this. Actually, I really like the way this is kind of settling in to give it like a lot of really dynamic browns, dark areas, lighter areas. Not going to worry too much about the interior here. I'm just going to kind of get in there and spread it around. This is looking nice. You know, I can't wait to learn more about this hobby and learn some of the things that I could do a bit better. I love the way this is looking. Like, if I could go back and start over fresh, there might be some different things that I do. Like, I might really start with that sort of lighter base coat on the carapace and whatnot to give it more of like a really bright sort of coloring to it. But to be honest, like I'm not unhappy with any part of this right now. Maybe a little bit more on like work on the interior, because like there are definitely some of the darker sections where like there's not a lot of paint on there. You can't see what's going on, and those would really stick out and look great had I done that from the get-go, but I didn't. And I think I'm okay with that. By okay with that, I mean I'm not going to go back and try to change that up. Because I suppose I could always just like go in there and paint over it again. You know what I mean? Like, what's the harm in painting over? It might get a little too kludgy, a little too much going on. And that wouldn't be ideal. That's my guess. But I don't know. My guess is that you can probably get away with just going back in and going over the areas you want to go over. But I really like how that looked. My goal right now, kind of what I want to get to, is really brightening up that carapace. And so what do I want to do? I'm going to go a little crazy here. Someone will tell me off for this, I'm sure. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dab of acrylic yellow, and I'm going to mix it with the speed paint red. And my goal, why did that turn like purple? Let me mix this around. Yeah, it's getting kind of orange. Let's just see what happens. Ooh, that kind of does like a nice, it's almost like a peach. Dare I add another little bit of yellow? Just a drop. Ooh, come on. There we go. Okay, yeah. This looks kind of cool. This looks like a very cool orange. I don't know what like mixing these paint mediums does, if it's like a terrible idea. Or if, you know, this is kind of like blotting out what I worked on earlier, which maybe isn't exactly what I wanted to do. Maybe that's just because I went over it a little too heavy. This is a little bit brighter than I maybe wanted. We'll see what happens when we let this sit. Because what I can do with this is I can work this in, and then I can go over it with my darker red again, that red wash, and just use that to kind of darken it a bit. Although this is drying a bit darker, so that's maybe it's okay. Maybe I can salvage it. I don't know. And I feel like I had a good thing going with that like dark red. And maybe what I needed to do is just like keep up with it and like just keep going at it with more and more layers. But you know, happy little accidents, right? We'll just kind of keep going and then see where we end up. The nice thing is that I'm able to kind of come back in on some of those darker areas and get some work done there. and kind of get back some of that detail that I was missing because I never really got a dark enough layer on there. So we'll see what that does. Oh, this is just too, it was too heavy on that side. I feel like I'm losing some of the detail, perhaps from too thick of a layer. And I don't know how I feel about that right now. But you know what? It's all just a trial. It's all just trial and error. So I feel like I'm forgetting which ones I've done and which ones I haven't yet. And maybe what I need to do is just kind of slow down. Focus on my boy here. I do like, this is like the orange is popping a little bit more, and as it's sort of like setting in, I think it's looking a little bit better. There's a lot of details that are very difficult to reach here. Maybe I'm not using the right brush. Yeah, I might have flown a little too close to the sun on this one with this color. Like it's hitting that vibrancy that I wanted, but I'm losing some of the tone that I had before. But you know what? We'll do what we did with the dirt and we'll just go over it with a darker color. I feel like I've lost a little bit of like the work that I had built up. But we can just kind of go back. It's giving us the opportunity to fix an issue, which is nice. I'm going a little too fast here. Need to slow it down. So I'd say if there was any issue that I would have with miniature painting is that sometimes on projects like this, I can start to lose focus and I can tend to rush. This does not seem like a rushing kind of hobby. But you know what? We'll just keep going on. I do want to get in all those little legs and mandibles that I missed earlier. I think I've got them all. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's looking pretty good. It's also pretty dry. And so I think the last coat I'm going to put on this, because I'm feeling like I'm getting to the point where if I continue to add on to it, I will I'll have more problems than I'll have answers here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dab of red and a dab of brown. And I'm going to go just ever so light. Oh, this is almost way too much. Let's just see what happens. Yep, I like that. What I'm doing is I'm clawing back some of the warmth that I lost, but just in the lightest tone. Wow, this red was actually, it was the way to go, I think. It really brought back in some of that detail that I wanted. There he is. I'm feeling like I'm right where I want to be. I'm happy. The base looks great. The everything just looks really tight. The last thing I want to do, I think I've got black in here somewhere. I just want to make sure his eyes are like little black pits. And so our finishing detail here, our final brush stroke, would be to get those eyes. There we are. Perfectly black. Well, there you have it. There's my boy. Maybe I will come in. Oh, now this is the real challenge, is that once you start, how do you stop? How do you stop adding little details and finesses? Just wanted to hit some areas. Okay, I'm not going to do that because that's not going to go the way I want it to. There he is, my boy. My boy. Wow. Yeah, so this is it. I think I've hit a point where I'm really happy with it. I probably could like go over and give it some highlights, give it some dry brushing, but honestly, I love just how natural it looks. I love the gradient work. I love all the different shades of brown and red that I was able to achieve. This is a fun little project. Miniature painting is fun. I'm going to have a blast. I have so many more miniatures from the Cosmere RPG to paint. I bought lots of supplies to do it. And so, hey, you know, I've got a lot of different things. I got a lot of irons in the fire right now, so to speak. But, you know, this is something I'm going to come back to from time to time. Maybe I'll do sort of a similar time lapse for all the minis that I paint. But to be honest, I think there's a lot I'm just going to paint, and I'll show you what they look like after the fact. Because this is chill, this is fun, and without having a camera in front of me, I can totally see this being a really fun, sort of relaxing thing to do. So if you like this, if you like the Cosmere RPG, if you like miniature painting, you know, feel free to subscribe. Investedinthecosmere.com. I have a lot of really awesome Cosmere RPG content that's already there. I have a lot more coming down the line. And maybe some fun surprises in the next couple of weeks. So check it out. Investedinthecosmere.com. Subscribe to this YouTube channel or TikTok or Instagram, wherever you're seeing this. And I will catch you on the next one.